What is up guys, it's your boy Solheim here, back with another Classic WoW video for Cataclysm Classic. Now in today's video, we're going to be talking about gold making, and I want to talk about a couple of ways that I'm planning to make gold, that I'm doing right now as well to make gold, and a couple of futuristic plans that I will be using this weekend and the next week to make gold as well. It will be a little bit of a different video covering multiple things in the same place, and if you want to have early access to all of my gold making videos, gold farming videos, and just an even further insight to my thoughts and how I make gold, then definitely check out my Cataclysm Classic gold making guide through the link down below. This is a full-fledged gold making guide that I've made. It's over 120 pages long, covers different gold farms to do in the game, both open world and other farms as well, covers profession farming, farming raw gold from materials or like other materials without professions, and also covers how to use crafting to make even more gold as well. It basically is a step-by-step on how to make a lot of gold in the game, whether you have nothing or starting from scratch, or if you have hundreds of thousands and want to keep building that empire even more as well. If you want to check it out, do so through the link down below. It really supports me and I appreciate it a lot. Either way, let's get into the video and talk about a couple of ways to make gold in Cataclysm. So for the first one, this is going to be a really time-sensitive advice right here. If you're watching the video really early, now how early depends on the region of which you play. EU, you have a shorter time span. North America, you have about 12 hours here. Darkmoon Fair is closing, well, I'm gonna upload this on Friday. I'm making it right now, 1.5 hours before the raid comes out. So I'm making this video on Thursday evening. I'll be releasing the video on Friday, which means you have 2 days to take this advice. Darkmoon Fair, it ends on Saturday, as you can see, Saturday at the end of the night, so you basically have the whole of Saturday here, and on NA I think it's the same thing, so the end of Saturday. Darkmoon Fair, trinkets, the next time Darkmoon Fair comes around is going to be the end of June, or not even the end of June, it's going to be the start of July, so we have a long time now without any Darkmoon Fair. And if you've been watching any BIS lists out there, best in slot lists, Darkmoon cards are on there. Now, the Tsunami one is pretty good for a lot of healers out there, and it's on the BIS list for a couple of healers, like even fully BIS as well, but at least pre-BIS and very good early gear in phase 1. The Hurricane decks are not really that good, but they can offer some cheap alternatives or some very cheap upgrades for level 85. So I've just been stocking up on those while I've gotten them cheap. So you can see that about 7k gold on my server, and the Tsunami deck is about 20k. But as you can see, I've been stocking up on a few Ember cards as well, and my plan is to have 4 Volcano cards in my bags when the Darkmoon Fair goes over. So I am continuously scouting the auction house for individual cards, and I'm buying the cheapest ones. Now, I can craft a whole deck for 38k on my server right now by buying all the cards individually, but by searching for the cards and buying the cheap ones on day 1, then waiting one more day, suddenly some of the expensive cards from day 1 are now the cheap cards, and some of the cheap cards from day 1 are now the expensive cards. So by looking at the market here and buying the cheap cards on different days, you can make the decks for about half price. And all the cards that I have here for the Embers, you can see I bought them for about 4k, I bought 4k, about 2.7 here for example, so 3 of them for 2.7, and this is now a really expensive card as well on my server. The 5 of Embers I bought for 1.8, this one is now 6k plus on my server, or 5.5 1.5 hours ago, so it's gone from being the cheapest card to now being one of the more expensive cards out there. Now the reason why I specifically bring this up for the Embers card or the Volcanic deck or the Darkmoon card Volcano is that that one is literally best in slot for almost every single caster in all of phase 1, even including heroic raid gear. So when you have your full best in slot list from this tier, it includes that Darkmoon card for almost every single caster. Go look at Fire Mages, go look at Boomkins, go look at many casters out there, and the Volcano deck will be on their BIS list. It's good going into Firelands, so it's a really good trinket that people will be willing to pay for right now, because it lasts them for months. It will last them until Firelands comes out, and barring extreme luck at the beginning of Firelands, it will even last them a few weeks into Firelands as well, until you get a normal or heroic raid item that can be an upgrade from the Volcano Trinket. So that one is, first of all, this list item that people want to have, and Darkmoon Fair will not be available for 5 weeks, so people might have skipped buying these cards hoping they go down in price. Well, after the Darkmoon Fair goes out, we have 5 weeks where there's basically no more sort of supply. It's all a supply versus demand game here when it comes to gold making, and the supply will dry up a lot for these cards. Meanwhile, the demand might even increase for some of them. Now I will say, when dealing with items of the value of volcanic decks, which are currently about 40k on my server, there's a big risk, because even though demand goes up a little bit, the supply or the price will also be subject to inflation and deflation, so it depends on how prices move. It's always going to be a risky investment. This one is probably one of the riskiest ones you can make, but if it pays off, it will pay off a lot as well, and you can flip 40k gold into 70k gold or something like that really easily by buying something now, turning it in, holding it in your bags for a week or two, and then sell. Once the initial supply goes out, there's almost no more cards on the market, and you can be the sole supplier. Suddenly, people just have to pay the price. It goes from being a buyer's market to now being a seller's market. We saw this happen in Wrath as well, and it's really good. Now, while I'm on the topic of Darkmoon cards, also the Earthquake decks. I've been able to craft these decks for about 2k gold each, and as you can see, I bought 3 of them as well for between 1.2 and 1.4k per deck. I am currently selling Maelstrom crystals for 4,000 gold each. I am almost doubling my gold on these decks by buying the cards individually, making the decks, and disenchanting the trinket. So in this case, I'm doing this right now before the raid comes out. I'm handing these in for the Earthquake decks, disenchanting the decks, and getting Maelstrom crystals. Now, when it comes to Maelstrom crystals, you could say that the price of these might go down when the raid comes out, as you will probably disenchant more gear. But once again, when you look at the enchanting materials required for almost all bis, even this one, which is a boot enchant, it requires a crystal. Putting this one more in the middle of the screen. Enchant Boot, Assassin's Step, requires 1 Maelstrom crystal. Going to Lava Walker, that's another boot enchant, 1 more crystal. Mastery, nothing right there. Bracer enchant, 1 crystal right there as well. And another Bracer enchant, another crystal. Enchant Chest, Peerless Stat, 3 crystals for a chest enchant. Enchant Cloak, 5 crystals for a cloak enchant, and then you have stuff like Power Torrent, 4 crystals for a weapon enchant. So even though the supply of crystals will go up a lot, when people get their bis from heroic raids, they want to have the best enchant, and they will cash out to have that enchant. That way they are now ready to go, they're full phase 1 bis, and when they get the best item they can get, they obviously want to have the best enchant as well. Getting a heroic raid item and then going around with a casual enchant, it doesn't really look that good, so they want to have the best thing they can have. So for the crystals, I can see these going up in price, even after the raid comes out. And even if they don't, I am currently making bank on just selling these cards. Now the raids will be out when this video is out, so take that advice with some grain of salt, and take a look at the price of Earthquake decks versus the price of Maelstrom crystals, and keep in mind you can proc multiple. So when disenchanting, you can get more than 1 crystal, you can get 2. Now I don't know exactly how many you get, but I've disenchanted 20 decks and I ended up with 24 crystals from 20 decks, so 20% extra. Now another thing that I want to talk about real quick here is that the raids are opening in 1.5 hours. When you're watching this, the raids will be out. You can farm BOEs in the raid. So for Blackwing Descent, you have a few trash mobs, so you really don't have that many. So for these BOE items, they're kind of dependent on you doing the raid, but you have so many weapons inside Blackwing Descent. You have the Claws of Torment, Claws of Agony, you have a lot of weapons, and even the Fury of Angerforge Trinket. Plus you have what I used to farm for back in the day because it looks really good, the Hide of Comagus. This one just looks so good for Boomkins. It's the same tier set though, so it's just like a really good item to have, and it looks super cool. I love this tier set. Now, if you're farming BOEs, I would not recommend Blackwing Descent because there are not really that many mobs available before the first boss. That being said, Bastion of Twilight has a lot of mobs available before the first boss, and you can farm a lot of BOEs there as well. The Unheeded Warning Trinket, for example, this one right here. You can get the Chelly's Staff of Mending. I really want to have this one, by the way, not getting my Archaeology Staff, I really need this one. Pretty good item right there. You have the Soul Blade, one-handed sword, and you have the Crossfire Carbine. Now in addition to that, you have Shoulder with plate shoulders, there we go. You have the Face Twister leggings, Songus helm, and bracers of the Dark Pool. Now, I remember farming this like a madman back in OG Cataclysm, and even just for the pure nostalgic value, I will probably do some BOE farms myself, because I really enjoyed doing this back in the day, and even though it might not be the best value, I'm still gonna do it, man. And for some of you starting out, some of these BOEs can sell for tens of thousands of gold. It's going to be a good way to make gold. It's just very RNG dependent, and if you want to have some extra advice there, bring a character with tailoring to loot extra cloth while farming inside the raid. Now, for those of you who stayed until the end of the video right here, there's one more thing I want to throw out there, and that is a Jewelcrafting flip. If you have Jewelcrafting, this one is really good for you, and you don't even need to have many skill points. You don't even have to do the daily to buy any life recipes here. It's a trainer-taught item, which is a pretty good flip right now, and that is the Jasper Ring. Making the Jasper Ring, you can make a lot of extra gold by buying the Jaspers right now on the auction house, crafting this ring, and then disenchanting the ring. Jaspers are super cheap on the auction house. The jeweler's setting is also really cheap when you buy it from the vendor, right? So you're adding these two up. You only need one Jasper. If I just put this one a little bit more this way, one Jasper and one jeweler's setting to make one Jasper ring. This is a level 79 green item, but it can be disenchanted into both essences and dust, giving you a lot more gold when you're disenchanting this one compared to the crafting cost. Now for this one, you're making about, it's very hard to say, it really depends on the price of Jasper on your server, but I'm making an average of 5 gold profit every single time I make one. So one craft plus one disenchant equals 5 gold profit. It might not be much, but when you just stand in Stormwind and do this, like craft them in bulk and disenchant all of them and have macros, you're making thousands of gold per hour by standing AFK, clicking one button over and over and over again. You can click all, like craft all, go AFK for 10 minutes, come back, press a button for 5 minutes to disenchant them, and suddenly you've made about 1,000 to 2,000 gold. It is really easy to make a lot of gold from this flip. So for that one, really just check the price of Jasper on your server, compare that to the price of enchanting materials, and if you want to have access to a spreadsheet or something, I might do that in the future, in which case I will publish that to people that have my gold making guide as well, where we have a lot more gold making stuff. Just gold making tools, spreadsheets, stuff like that I'll post over there first, and then consider doing a video on it as well. It's a pretty good flip, so I'll share my results on this when I do it more in bulk and I have a bigger pool to choose from, so we can see how much gold we end up making. Let's say I spend 50,000 gold on Jaspers just to I could do that, spend 50,000 gold on Jaspers and just make rings and see how much we make. And I also want to have a gold per hour account, so I could make a big spreadsheet about that and we can see exactly how much gold we make in total, profit wise, and gold per hour as well. Either way, that is pretty much what I have for you today. Once again, we have currently found a farm that I'm making 18 to 20,000 gold per hour by doing, and if you want to have early access to that, that is also in the gold making guide or the Discord you get access to when you buy the guide. It's a way for me to make sure that farm stays really valuable and give you access to it when you choose to support me that extra way. So once again, check it out through the link down below, and hopefully you're able to use some of the methods talked about today to make a little bit of gold. And if you jump onto the Darkmoon card investment / flip, let me know how that works out for you, because I'm doing it myself and I would love to hear if you have success or failure doing it yourself as well. Once again, the Darkmoon card thing is a super risky thing to do, but I think it's going to pay off. Either way, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like down below, let me know how you're making gold in the comments as well, and thank you so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. As always, I'll see you again in the next video very soon.